Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Perspective Checks, where I sit down with friends and folks from the TTRPG community to talk about all the things we love, the games we want to work so badly we break them, and make our own rules just to make them better. Today, I am joined by Ian, co-host of the Undercommon Taste podcast, which I was fortunate enough to just be on recently to chat post-catastrophe media. And now, Ian, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'll do what you did in your episode. We met all of like a little over a month ago ish, something like that.
Yeah, almost 2 months ago at this point. But
I'm bad at time. That's
well, our first session was at the beginning of October, and we're recording this at the beginning of December. So
yep. Yeah, we met with Clark Rowenson, CR Rowenson, who has been on this show, and I've talked to him about LitRPGs. His book has come out. We played in a series on his YouTube channel, all hyping up his new book, the New Eternity series of LitRPG books that he has put out. Oh, I should have grabbed the book that I have right in the other room. But yeah, we played a game set in the world of his book, which was really fun. We both played the big guys, which was also fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
We have our types. Now we're just sitting down to nerd out about games. Before we dive into our topic, though, I always ask guests on these Perspective Checks episodes the same 3 questions to open the episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we get to know you a little bit and just kind of set the baseline. And the first one is a very simple. How long have you been a nerd? How long have you been playing TTRPGs or been around the hobby?
I sat down and did some figuring back to figure this out. And I think my first exposure to TTRPGs was around 2003, 2004. I remember the particular instant very vividly. I was at school. I was in the band room. And I was listening to a couple of other guys in the band talking about their game. And one of them complaining that they died in the last fight when they were fighting God. And they forgot that they had a pair of winged boots. And they basically got Sparta kicked off of this platform, and they fell to their deaths because they forgot they could fly. And so they were talking about all of this, and I didn't know what they were talking about.
Zero context.
I assumed that, they said that they were talking Dungeons and Dragons, but, my only exposure to Dungeons and Dragons was the ads that they took out in Nintendo Power magazine at that point. Right there as third edition or 3.5 was coming out. And so I thought it was a video game at that time. I didn't realize that tabletop gaming was a thing, because I grew up in a very rural area. Like the closest Walmart is a half-hour drive from where my parents live. It's only about 4 miles in a straight line, but because we live in Appalachia, there's the mountains, and so you have to go to the end of the valley and find a break in the valley to get across. And so there is no straight line from here to there.
You don't want to go through those woods.
No, well, you can't, because you have to go over the mountain and down the other side. So fast forward a couple of years, and the kid that I have an assigned seat with on the school bus has a copy of the 3.5 edition Player's Handbook. And we're looking through it, and he's explaining how the game works, and I end up rolling up my first character there on the school bus.
Awesome.
It was a half-elf ranger, and he had 2 hit points.
Oh, wow.
Because he made me roll hit points.
1 HD.
And I rolled a 1. I rolled a 1, and I had a +1 con modifier. So
that's awesome.
I'm kind of glad that I never actually got around to playing him, because he would have died. Something would have sneezed at him, and he would have died. We talked a little bit about, me getting over to his house and playing a game, and that just never materialized. Then fast forward a couple of years to college, and the first tabletop RPG that I actually played was one that was written by a friend of mine called Tech of the Dead, because I was at West Virginia Tech, and he wrote this game. It was on a D6 system. You had a certain number of D6s that you could divide up amongst your stats, or you could take one die out of your allotment, and you break it up into 3 pips, and each pip gives you just a flat +1.
Oh, that's cool.
And he said it was mechanically based off of another game, and I can't remember what it was because it's been 20 years now, almost. That was the first time that I ever actually played a TTRPG. We started off playing as ourselves, and our starting inventory was whatever we had in our pockets.
Nice.
So I got to start off with a pocket knife, which was great.
Pretty, strong.
And the highlight was at the very end, because we were playing on our campus, where we were currently at, and we had to get across the river to the town on the other side. That's where the National Guard was setting up and quarantining all the zombies on our side.
Gotcha.
And so we had to get across the bridge. And the bridge there in Montgomery, it is the only bridge across the Kanawha River between the big famous New River Gorge Bridge and Charleston. So it's like 30 miles either way.
Yeah, it was your one chance.
And this is the one bridge in the middle. And so we get up on the bridge, and there's a horde of zombies on this bridge. And it was intended to be sort of a, go out in a blaze of glory, try to fight your way across the bridge. And I'm like, are there any cars, abandoned cars on this bridge? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to take one of these t-shirts that I looted on the way here, and I'm going to shove it down in the gas tank, and we're going to light it, and we're going to put it in neutral and roll it out onto the bridge. He's like, okay, you're going to have to roll it, and it's going to be hard. You're talking like this is going to be double sixes.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I roll double sixes.
That's epic.
And we just clear all the zombies off the bridge at once and just stroll on across.
Oh, that's awesome.
And talk about a high note to end your first ever TTRPG on.
Yeah. And actually, there's a little bit of like foreshadowing about what we're going to be talking about later, or for the focus of this episode. But that's an awesome starting story. I love that. And I love that your first experience, like most people, I started with 3.5. A lot of my friends started with 3.5, and like opening that player's handbook, seeing the art of like the iconics. Amazing. I mean, like if you don't get excited, nothing's going to get you. I think like if you look at the 3.5 like player's handbook and see that character art, you're like, I know which one I am. I was like druid all day, every day. Let's go. But I love that your first experience was not technically officially D&D. That's great.
Yeah. And then a couple weeks after that, I had my first experience running a game, which was Paranoia 2nd Edition.
Oh, you dove right in. Paranoia is a good one to start.
Oh yeah, Paranoia 2E it was so much fun. That first session though, it was so bad. I was so bad running a game because I had no experience. I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, and so I was running very strictly along the progression guide. I was very railroady, and with Paranoia, weaponized bureaucracy is a thing.
Yeah.
And so we played for almost 4 hours, and at the end of this 4-hour session, they finally had the gear to go on their first assignment.
Listen, as somebody who works in a very bureaucratically glacial speed kind of thing, I love Paranoia. I've read it, and like part of me is like, I could never play this game because it would just hit too close to home.
I have the new version. I think it's 5th edition, the red clearance edition. So
yeah, they don't do numbers.
Who does this one? Mongoose.
Yeah.
This is the Mongoose Paranoia. I haven't gotten a chance to play it, but I watched. I forget who was running that game, but it's got Matt Colville and Matt Mercer as players. That's in that
bound
game.
To be great. Yeah.
And it was just a blast. I'm pretty sure it's on the MCDM YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, Paranoia 2nd Edition was the first game that I ever ran, and it was the only game I had run until after I got out of college and moved in with my girlfriend, now wife. And that was when I actually got a chance to finally play D&D for the first time. and that was in the D&D Next playtest, which was the playtest 4.5e.
Yeah, that was the very first time I played D&D, was D&D Next.
Yeah.
That's
and I played a Warbringer cleric,
nice.
which ended up being the war domain, and I played that because Paladin wasn't available yet.
Mhm.
And that set me down the path of my eternal love for the cleric class.
Nice.
I am by far and beyond a cleric stan. that is my preferred class.
Heck yeah.
Fireball may be flashy, but Flamestrike just has that certain je ne sais quoi to it.
Yeah, and every cleric is strong, so every party needs one, and you don't always just need to be the light or life domain clerics.
Yeah, and the way that I play games, I like characters that can get into melee and heal themselves. Mm-hmm. Like my spell slots are for me to smite my foes and stay on my feet. Mm-hmm. If you wanted healing, you should have bought a potion of healing.
Yep.
Yeah, but my first ever character, his name was Oscar Stoneburner. He is a dwarf cleric, and he has a charisma of 6.
Lovely.
Yeah, we call him Short Angry Godman.
And hey, with a charisma of 6, that's absolutely the person who's just like, if you wanted healing, you buy a potion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what have you been playing lately? Have you been playing any interesting games or?
So most of what I've been playing lately, I haven't been playing a whole lot of TTRPGs lately. Between editing the podcast and recording the podcast and my day job.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I'm a handyman as my day job, and I just recently passed my exam to get my home inspector's license. So
nice.
So hopefully by first of the year, I will be able to start transitioning away from handyman work and into home inspection work, which pays better for less physical strain.
Yeah, nice. Congrats.
Well, thank you. So primarily the main thing I've been playing lately is Diablo 3. I've been on a kick. Every so often I'll pick up a game that I've got on my computer. I don't think I've bought a video game in almost a decade. I cycle through the same ones. Like I'll go on a while where I'll play World of Warcraft every day, and then I'll go for a while playing something like Fallout or Skyrim or
Hey, you could have bought Skyrim 10 times in the last 10 years.
I could have
all the different editions.
Didn't.
No, I know.
Yeah. So the way that I remember Skyrim's release on 11/11/11 was that was my last day working for the construction testing company that I used to work for. I worked a half day and then turned in all of my stuff and picked up my copy from GameStop on the way home.
Nice.
And then spent the next 4 days putting in 30 hours of gameplay.
Honestly, this is a little bit of a tangent. Skyrim is wild. One, at that time in my life, I was in like emo bands, and I was like this musician. Like I've always been a nerd. I played a lot of Final Fantasy growing up, a lot of single player JRPGs. Like that was me. I'll be in the basement playing TTRPG or JRPGs till like 2 a.m. But I went to a band practice, and of all people, my drummer, who I never expected to buy a game like Skyrim, was playing it. And we were like, dude, we have practice. And he's like, yeah, but dude, I just got to finish this quest real quick. And I sit there and I'm watching him, and I was like, all right, I got to know what this is. And he tells me, I leave, I pick it up on the way home from practice that night. And my girlfriend at the time, now wife, comes over that night, and I'm like loading it up, and she's looking at it, and she's like, so what is this? And I was like, I don't know. It's Skyrim. Scott was playing it, and we start playing it. And then she's like, that she leaves, and like the next day she comes over, and she brought over a TV, her Xbox, and she bought Skyrim. And that was like the beginning of our relationship. Was like we would sit next to each other at my parents' house playing like 5 hours of Skyrim a night. It was glorious. And then of course, that was the slippery slope to the D&Ds, of the world. So
for TTRPGs, I have run a few games. My wife is a librarian. And so she ropes me into running games at the library every so often. We just finished up November. November was International Games Month. And so I that first Saturday I ran a game of Old Gods of Appalachia.
Oh, nice.
And then this past Saturday I ran a game of Kids on Bikes. And then about I think it was middle of September, it was Hobbit Day.
Oh, yeah.
We did a game then, and I ran a game of Monster of the Week where everyone was playing kobolds, raiding a dragon's lair.
That's awesome. Oh, man. I love Kids on Bikes. Definitely a soft spot for me. I've run it a bunch of times for my home group.
I want to get a game of Kids on Bikes where I actually have enough people, because I only had one person sign up to play Kids on Bikes with me. And so he was running a character, I was running a character. So we actually had two characters to play this game, but it really needs more people than that.
Especially for like the session, like the beginning of the session questions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's awesome. Also, the DMs After Dark, my original RPG homies on the internet, we all started because two of them are librarians and they started a library program. That's how we all met and started. So shout out to libraries. Go support your libraries.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, that transitions pretty well into what are we going to be talking about today, Ian?
We are talking about Homebrew.
And
all of the different aspects therein, because that is a very broad and amorphous topic.
Yeah, we will barely scratch the surface, but your podcast is a lot about homebrewing and homebrew content.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things that if you're deep enough in the RPG world that you found and listened to my podcast, you certainly know of more games than just the big ampersand. Mm-hmm. And even if you are still just playing the ampersand because that's what's around and that's what you're doing, I'm sure you have encountered homebrew. It is something that is it's almost a given in the TTRPG space. And I think that people think it's bigger than it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think even small shifts cover homebrew, and then that's actually more of a impetus to keep going than anything. But before we dive into it, I gotta ask, are you a play rules as written first kind of person, or are you a I've read the book and I know it's going to work and I'm ready to out of the box come with some ideas to tweak?
So I have been playing and running enough games that I can usually tell if there is a rule that I'm going to have to tweak out of the box.
Yeah.
However, I am very much of a mindset of it's almost an insult to the game designer to not run it rules as written the first time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because they took the time to figure out these rules. Most of the time, they also play tested these rules to make sure that they worked. And going in and just playing the game and modifying things that first time you sit down to play, you might break something that otherwise would have worked just fine. Mm-hmm. And B, that's, going to a fancy restaurant and having them bring you your food and you sit down and you put salt and pepper on everything before you've even tasted it.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And it's disingenuous to just go in with the intent of changing the game without having tried the game first to see how it works.
Yeah.
That being said, I have played enough games, I've run enough games, I've run enough different games over the years that I can pretty easily tell, based on how I know my players like to play a game, if the rules as written are going to work for them.
Yeah.
But I always try and give it the good, that honest college try. That first time through, just to make sure. And there have been times whenever I have just made a snap ruling at the table, halfway through that first session, saying, hey, this isn't working. Let's try shifting it. And I feel like that is the best way to go about doing it. If you have something that you think you want to change, write it down, set it there beside you, behind the screen or next to your computer or however it is that you run your game. And then you start the game as written and see if it works. And if the thing that you think isn't going to work turns out to not work, then you have a solution already figured out that you can implement at that time.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I think, the design nerd in me loves to read a book and be like, wow, they made all these intentional decisions, right? Like they thought all this and they tested this and this is how they want it to feel. And then at other times, like the forever GM in me reads something and just goes, yeah, no, I'm never going to use that. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, I actually really dislike that entire subsystem or something like that. But but yeah, I'll give it a shot,
It's like the meme that I saw a while back talking about software design, and the programmer programs a bar.
Mm-hmm.
They go up to the bartender and they ask for a beer. They ask for 2 beers. They ask for 1,000,000 beers. They ask for -1 beers. They work out all the kinks. It goes live. The first customer walks in, asks the bartender where the bathroom is, and the bar burns down. Yeah. So that's where I'm getting at with that, because there are always going to be edge cases that the person who's writing the rules doesn't think about, that are going to come up organically in play, because that's how the creative experience works.
Yeah. You release it out into the world.
Inevitably, people are going to find the edge cases that don't fall within the confines of your rule set.
Mm-hmm. I forgot who said this. I was listening. I mean, I listen to a lot of TTRPG discourse podcasts, but somebody said at one point that it's really interesting that like humans are computers and games are software or something like that. Like,
yeah, that's
no two people are going to run it the same way kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like you just said, we have enough experience with games and different types of games that we can read a set of rules and say, okay, I think this is going to fly, or like, I know my players are going to, this is going to cause friction, or, they're going to, bristle at this. But then that's when, even if you're not familiar with it, say you're just sitting down and you and your friends are playing your first D&D 5e campaign, and you as the GM are trying your darndest to follow the rules, and your party's just like, man, I really hate encumbrance. And then you go, yeah, oh God, I'm glad you said that because it's awful.
Yeah.
Then the notion of homebrew arises, right? There's a lot of different types of homebrew, right? You can reskin, you can create subsystems, subclasses, right? You can tweak a subclass if like your player's idea for their rogue isn't really flavor wise what their subclass actually says, kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any good advice for people when they say, I think I want to change something or make something original? What does identifying the need for homebrew look like?
All right. So I'm going to start off by saying that the most common form of homebrew is house rules.
Yeah.
And quite often, house rules simply make the game flow better.
Yeah. That really is, yeah. We decided to not bog down our game with this, and we streamline it to this.
Like tracking ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very common one that got actually officially changed in the 2024 version. Potions as a bonus action.
Mm-hmm.
Because rules as written in the 2014 5e book, drinking a potion is an action.
Yeah, interact action to draw it, full action to drink it.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. And so that was probably the most popular house rule across all of 5e.
And not lose your turn, right? Because that's the thing that feels the worst, right? Is at that point, I'm not playing the game. If you hurt me so much that I just want to do something, but it's like I have to do nothing so I can not die, so I could do something.
Yeah. And then getting into your question of how do you identify when to homebrew? I would start off by saying homebrew whenever the game isn't doing what you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's basically what homebrew is you modifying the game to suit your needs with regards to how to do it. I would start off by really looking at the game and making sure that there isn't already a way in the game to do the thing you want it to do.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's just something you haven't seen yet, Or,
Yeah.
I will bash the D&D 5e, the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide pretty hard all the time. I think it's not a good book.
It isn't.
But there are some rules variants in there that are interesting, and I think that people forgot that they are in there, but it's not even so much that they forgot, it's that it's poorly laid out and you'll never find it, Yeah,
you have to go through 250 pages of slop to find the good rules.
Yeah.
Starting in like chapter 8.
Right.
Yeah, all of the important rules in the 2014 DMG happen after the magic item tables.
That is actually very true. Yeah. Like the last couple chapters are where there's gold.
Oh, yes.
And before that is like a bunch of like sort of just Forgotten Realms stuff. And then like some tables about like, what's this specific dungeon room look like? And don't get me wrong, I love me a good table. But that is not what you should be throwing at first time DMs. I mean, and experienced DMs don't need that.
We had to wait until they released a splat book in Xanathar's Guide to Everything to have guidance on how to use your skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What things you can do with your skills.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it took them 2 years after releasing the books to tell us what to do with that big old box and the bottom of your character sheet.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. I am a noted, I don't want to say anti D&D, although, you know what, I'll own it. I'm pretty anti D&D just because I think that one, it sucks out all the air from the room. And it is this like, giant elephant in the room that takes away from a lot of creative people by just being the brand name associated with this. It is the Kleenex of RPGs.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will give it credit for is that despite all of the money in the world and all of the corporate ad space and all of the stuff they can do with it and make a legitimately, I think, pretty good movie and like, really all this stuff, they still somehow put out a game that I feel like the majority of people dislike enough that they homebrew. And I will give them this. Homebrew is your first step, not only to finding new games, but just designing your own games.
Yes, absolutely. Homebrew is the first step to game design. Homebrew is game design.
It is game design. It absolutely is.
And the way here's my hot take for this episode. Homebrew is to game design what fan fiction is to literature.
Yeah, just write those books.
Yeah, because homebrew is game design where you are building off of an established system, an established world that someone else has written.
Mm-hmm.
And you are taking that rule set and you are modifying it for your ends, for your needs, and creating the things that you want out of it. Just like you can read a book and you love the characters in the book and you want to write your own story because you associate with those characters. And so you write a story with those characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get into the problematic side of fan fiction in this particular conversation.
Sure. There's plenty of those game hacks too, to be
absolutely,
fair.
Yeah. And there are a number of games that are all built on the same chassis, built on the same SRD, powered by the Apork.
The Aporkalypse.
The Aporkalypse.
Really
yeah. There we go.
The Aporkalypse.
There we go. There's our collaborative game idea.
Yeah, now we need to do something powered by the Aporkalypse for sure.
Yeah, powered by the Apocalypse, forged in the dark. See, I was fast forwarding. Was it Carved by Rune?
Carved by Rune. Yeah, I've made a Carved by Rune game. Yeah, absolutely.
There are a number of these SRDs, Carta.
Mm-hmm. I love Carta. I really like Carta games.
Yeah. Oh, Kat is a wonderful person. We've had her on a couple of times to talk about the Solo But Not Alone bundles.
Yeah.
Kat is just an amazing human being, and the most fun person ever to have a conversation with. So, building off of an SRD, that starts to blur the lines, starts to muddy the waters between, is this homebrew or is this game design?
Yeah,
because you're building off of this framework. Caltrip Core, there's another one.
Yeah, big one.
Because I actually started designing a game in Caltrip Core a while back, and it ended up morphing into something else because as I started writing it, That was when I first played Anamnesis by Sam Lee.
Great game.
And that was my first exposure to using tarot as a generator for a solo game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a game that is still, it's about 85 to 90% done. The mechanical part of it is done. It's the prompts part of it. And as I have heard you lament in the past, prompts are hard.
They're very hard, and
they
the people
are
who can do them
deceptively
well,
hard.
the people who do them well, I swear to God, it's magic.
Yeah,
it is crazy how well prompts work. And like, I have a few games in development that I have like 75% of the prompt lists done, and then I'll play test it, and I'll be like, "Ooh, this feels good. Ooh, it's working." And then one comes out, and I'm like, "Oh no, I gotta scrap that one." Like that one just completely ruined my momentum. And like, I props to every designer who does prompt based games. It's incredible.
Yeah, so the game, the working title is 27 Parsecs to Echo Station. Ooh. Where you're basically a space trucker. So you have a freight ship, and you have to make jumps from gate to gate to get to Echo Station, which is your final destination where you're going to be dropping your payload. And the cards generate the prompts for what happens each time you jump through a gate.
Perfect.
And then you use D4s as your resolution mechanic, where you start off, you have 4 stats. I think you have 2 starting at a 2 and 2 starting at a 1. And so that determines how many dice you roll. You roll your dice, you use the highest result to generate how you manage to interact with this prompt. Whereas a 4 means you succeeded, a 1 means you failed. 3 is you succeed but not great, and a 2 is you kind of succeed but there's a consequence in it.
Yep.
And then if every die you roll comes up 4, then you get 1 point to that stat, which increases your dice pool for the remainder of the game. And so that was, I started it off as a Caltrip core because I liked that D4 concept. And then I played Anamnesis, and I realized the whole, tarot prompt generation thing. And I'm like, I want to combine these. Yeah. And so that was where Homebrew sort of ended up becoming game design. And it was kind of interesting because it wasn't so much building off of someone else's game. It was more taking this person's SRD and this person's game and seeing how I could sort of kit bash them together, and what parts I needed to keep and what parts I needed to throw away in order to make a playable game out of that.
Yeah, I love, I mean, as a solo player, I'm playing Colossal right now on my podcast, but like, I've played a lot of solo games and a lot of solo, like I'll always come back to Ironsworn for certain like oracles, because it's just the way that you can inspire yourself with a couple of words. I mean, you can use that in any game you want. And that's also in Mythic GME, which is a huge solo tool.
I use Mythic every so often myself. Yeah.
I use Mythic as a GM, like when I'm GMing 4 people, like sometimes I'll just be like, roll me a couple D100 and like, let's just like throw some words together. You know what I mean? But yeah, like you said, sometimes you play a game and you're like, I love this and I want to use this in something else. Sometimes it's, I play a game and you realize you love something from that game, but you and your friends are locked in a long campaign of another game. And you're like, hey, can we bring something like this in? And there's lots of ways to do that, right? Like you said, sometimes the rule exists. You can just reskin something, call it something else.
One of my favorite implementations of that is, so before I really got into playing 5th edition, there was an actual play that I listened to called Thursday Nights. It was up until about, I think they stopped around 2001. But for the longest time, it was the longest running actual play stream on Twitch. Unfortunately, a group of nerdy ass voice actors decided to use the same time slot.
Oh, brutal.
And they weren't able to
compete with that. Yeah.
And so they ended up folding. But they started on a D&D 4E campaign. And not having played D&D yet and just listening to other people playing, I didn't know there was any difference. I didn't know about the addition wars and all of that.
Right.
But there were certain things in that game that once I got sitting down to play 5th edition, I'm like, where are the minion rules?
Yeah.
Why did they get rid of minion rules? Minion rules were the greatest thing ever, and I still use them. That's one of the big homebrew things that I do is I implement minion rules because it makes things so much snappier, so much faster, so much easier.
And also it allows you to almost, I mean, nothing is less climactic or like more disappointing than being like, you are in the middle of like a massive battle and then you're like, load up the VTT or like, let me get my minis, and there's like 4 enemies that they need to beat, and it's like, just imagine there's a ton of other stuff around here, right? Like, yeah. But with minion rules, you can literally be like, there's not a single square space here anywhere, like you need to just like mow through people, and you can feel so heroic and
absolutely
awesome,
yeah,
you know,
it makes things so much more cinematic. It makes things so
does.
much more interesting. It keeps your players engaged in the combat.
Yep, they can have their own little Gimli Legolas that makes 42, you know what I mean?
That still only counts as 1.
Listen, I'm a 4E apologist. You'll never like, honestly, I get why it was not popular.
I want to play a 4E game. I've never gotten a chance to play a 4E game, and I like the crunch of it. I am very much a mechanics minded individual when it comes to TTRPGs. I have a lot of trouble with a lot of the story forward, narrative forward things that are based off of collective storytelling as opposed to mechanics. Mm-hmm. I struggle a lot with those sorts of games. I enjoy them, but I have a hard time really getting into them because I don't have, I need a framework.
Yeah.
That's the flavor of neurospicy I am. I need a framework. I need to have the rules so I know how to break them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4E, I will say this. I mean, it's very well designed. If you like tactical long combat, you're going to love that game. But yeah, I mean, at this point in my preferences, I definitely will take a incredibly pared down rules light narrative forward game. But regardless, this is actually a good segue to another kind of homebrew that's really common. With something like 4E or something crunchier, right? Pathfinder 2E right now. If you want to homebrew something bigger, right? If you can't reskin something because it doesn't really scratch that itch and you're like, I got to do a little more work on this, not quite to the point of I'm going to be hacking the SRD and making my own game. I just want like a class, right? Or even if it is something like a Powered by the Apocalypse playbook, right? I mean, like that is about as mechanically involved as you're going to get doing some design in that kind of system or engine.
Right.
It requires, going back to the beginning, it does require a certain level of system mastery and understanding. Like you probably have to have either read the book or played the game as intended, as written, enough to understand what the intention of a certain mechanic or like how the structure of level powers, you know what I mean? Like if it's a level kind of game where you're getting stronger, your Pathfinders, your D&Ds, your power is going up. Your Powered by the Apocalypse, Forged in the Dark, those are going wider, right?
Yes.
So you need to understand you can't make something that makes your Forged in the Dark character stronger because that's not what the game is doing when you advance.
Right.
And much like in Pathfinder or D&D, as flavorful as it would be to make something that gives your character more breadth and more interesting options, if it doesn't make them more powerful to stay on the curve, then it's not good. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You need to understand the underlying goal of the mechanics.
Yeah, and especially with a game like D&D, one of the most common homebrew faux pas that I see whenever you're creating a class or a subclass is not understanding what that trajectory is.
Mm-hmm.
They usually overshoot it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It is so much easier to have an overpowered homebrew than it is to have an underpowered homebrew because you have all of these cool ideas and you want to implement all of them, but you can't.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him credit on this because it was a brand new class and stuff, but like Percy in Critical Role Campaign 1. I mean, Gunslinger was broken.
Yeah.
It was so
it was
broken.
absolutely, yes.
So broken.
And I've been guilty of that. I have done those sorts of things in the past. Whenever you're doing homebrew, you have to, I've heard this sort of writing advice. I think Brandon Sanderson said it in an interview. You have to just create a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get all of the bad ideas out of the way so that you can get the good ideas out. And, you have to finish all of your bad projects so that you get into the habit of being a person who finishes projects.
Yep. And you can learn from the mistakes, absolutely. Right?
Yeah. There is, I think, you had a guest on a while ago said that, you never waste any prep.
Oh, right? Yeah. Matt Risby. Nothing you learn is ever wasted.
Nothing you learn is ever wasted. Yes. Everything that you learn in your homebrew
journey
projects will help inform your later homebrew projects and make them better.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. And this is actually next in our little outline here. We're jumping around a little bit, but, I have a question for you, which is like, do you have any favorite homebrew creations of your own? And it made me go back and I found one of my very first 5e homebrew subclasses. It was like one of the first times. This is a story I do love telling. My wife is, she puts up with me. She plays a lot of TTRPGs with me. She's a supportive nerd. Her brother and his wife, not so nerdy.
Right.
But it was like the beginning of COVID and we needed something to do. And I was like, you guys want to play some D&D? And his wife was like, no, Rene, nope, not into it. And I was like, what do you like? And she said, I like Disney movies. And I was like, I can do that. So I ran a 4-year D&D Disney campaign where basically we played Kingdom Hearts and we jumped Disney World to Disney World and we just D&Dified. And you'd be surprised at how well this works. You can absolutely, Merida is a ranger. That's not hard to do. You're fighting bears. Bears exist in D&D. It's not hard. Owl bears, all this stuff. But so at one point I needed to make stuff for the Aladdin world. And I made a warlock patron, which is a genie. And oh my goodness, did I not do a good job? I'm so glad I did not have to run this for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done some of that stuff. I've got a player in my home group. They are running a very alpha version homebrew class that I was working on because I really don't like the way that the arcane archer exists in 5e. I think that it is grossly underpowered. And so I decided that I was going to create something. And oh boy, I made some mistakes in this, and it has gotten it has gotten overly complicated, and I'm having to pare it back. Luckily, I shouldn't say luckily, but we haven't played in several months, and we're probably going to scrap that campaign. So I don't have to deal with the consequences of my actions right now.
But even still, you experienced it enough to go, nope, I should, I got to tweak a lot of that.
But with regards to, homebrew stuff that I have made and that we have released, I have 3 classes that that we put together and released. We have several subclasses. I think my favorite of the classes that I wrote and released was the Spellblade.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted an arcane equivalent to the Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that the Artificer is an arcane half-caster. They are the wrong kind of half-caster for me. I want somebody who is a martial who augments with magic, not a magician who tinkers with things that go boom.
Yep.
Okay. So that was my first real big foray into 5e class design. I came up with 3 individual subclasses. One is for, a very nimble dual wielder. I think it's the dervish. So that's the name of the subclass. And you bounce around and you're attacking with 2 light weapons and what have you. And then you have the vanguard, who is the exact opposite. That is the big, bulky, 2-handed weapon. break yourselves upon my body sort of class. And then there is the warder, which is a sword and board, but instead of a board, you have a shield, like an arcane
abjuration
energy shield. The way that I balanced everything out is baseline, they only have access to touch and self range spells.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't be out there chucking fireballs because that's outside of the parameters of your class.
That's a great constraint. And actually that's very good advice for a lot of homebrew, right? Like you said, there's a tendency to overpower them. But if you constrain yourself, right, then that's a great way to limit, but also like hone in on the intended experience of what you are creating to put it into the game where nothing else does this. You know, I like that. That's a very good constraint, I think, to have.
Yeah, and because it plays into the fantasy is, you know, that's what I wanted. I want somebody who is going to be doing melee magic.
Mm-hmm.
And
and there's a lead singer, but there's like a lot of weird requirements for that one. And also it's like
the lead singer is also a wizard.
Yeah.
And has access to 9th level spells because the arcane because the spell sword is a half caster, they only get up to 5th level spells.
Yeah. Which is honestly probably better, for the vibes, right? Like that's not they're not studying all the time. They are fighting.
It is literally the arcane equivalent of the paladin.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted. I wanted the paladin fantasy, but with fire and lightning.
Right. And you couldn't just reskin, right? Because it wasn't about smiting, right? Like
it wasn't about smiting. It wasn't about they don't have access to healing magic.
Right.
You know, it's not, it doesn't have the RP overtones because you don't have the path of righteousness. You don't have the oaths. You don't have all of that. These are soldiers. These are people who are trained to walk out onto a battlefield and break things.
Yeah.
That is their entire thing. They are shock troops. That is their job.
They're specialized fighters, right? But you can't just put it as a fighter subclass because there's not enough in a subclass.
Because the Eldritch Knight didn't do what I wanted it to.
Right. Exactly.
The Eldritch Knight came closer. It came closer than the Artificer did.
Yeah.
But it was still not quite what I wanted.
Yep.
A couple of the other classes that we've released over the years, I did a Dragoon based off of the Final Fantasy Dragoon.
Heck yeah. Does it have jump as an ability?
It does.
Heck yeah.
It does. There are two versions. There is a jump where you go vertical and there is a dash where you go horizontal.
Love it.
And then because I built this off of my home world's world building.
Sure.
The Dragoons sprouted from the ongoing conflict between the chromatic and metallic dragons. And so they are all bonded to a chromatic hatchling from a clutch that was captured from a slain chromatic dragon. These are all soldiers of the metallic dragonflights. And so they're trying to use a nurture over nature sort of thing approach to try and make non-evil chromatic dragons.
Interesting.
And they're trying to win the war by attrition in this particular way. And so there are 5 subclasses, each one based off of one of the 5 chromatic dragons. So like I built that off of my memories of a 4th edition Dragoon homebrew that I found while I was in college, back when the Firefox add-on Stumble Upon was still
I loved Stumble Upon.
Stumble Upon was so great.
Well, that's going to hit a very small percentage of people, but those who know remember Stumble Upon ruled. Yeah,
the abject despair that I experienced whenever I came on to the internet one day and realized that Stumble Upon was gone and all of my cached saved websites were gone with it.
I'm a compulsive bookmarker for that reason. Like I have folders of like tons of
I am now.
Right, yeah, sure.
But I had
That's funny. It was like a homebrew of a homebrew.
Yeah, it was a homebrew of a memory of a homebrew because I remembered seeing it, and I still have never found it again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where that one came from. And then the third class that we did was I wanted to bring back the 3.5 class variant of the Urban Ranger.
Ooh.
So we redid the Urban Ranger that coincided with our the 5e Ranger sucks. Here's how we are going to attempt to fix it. Because every homebrew podcast that has any toes dipped into the 5e space has attempted to fix the Ranger at some point in time. It's a rite of passage. Everyone has to do it.
I'll be honest, when you said we wanted to revive a 3.5 thing, I was like, please don't be like Incarnum or like, Psionics. Like, please don't do it.
No. But that was a class that I loved the vibe of it because it was, if you wanted to play in an urban setting, you basically couldn't play as a ranger in 5e.
Yeah, Natural Explorer
because their entire skill set was null and void in an urban setting. And so I went back and I found, I can't even remember which book it's in, but I found the 3.5 Urban Ranger and I built it out. It filled a lot of the niches that were open with regards to an urban setting.
Yeah, and I think I love that because that's a subclass that you're not going to pick if you know the kind of campaign you're going into, but if you do know the kind of campaign you're going to and it fits, it's exactly why this was a worthwhile endeavor. It was a clear gap that you saw. Hey, I think that there's something to be said for exploring this, and then you were like, oh, nothing that exists really does this. I can't reskin stuff. I'm just going to put a little bit of work in to see if this works. Yeah. And if nothing else, it's one of those things where you sit down with the player who's interested in this, or you throw it out there to players and say, this is the closest we can get within this rule set to this idea. And we're going to wing it and tweak from there. And like, that's really great. It's not only you're playing the game that you've been playing, but you are playing it, with that kind of open, let's see where this goes, and like you said, it's the first step to game design, right?
Yeah.
It is game design.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
I do love that a lot of homebrew, and especially homebrew as it's talked about on the internet, right? It's a lot of times player facing options, right? Like it is, like you said in the beginning, a lot of them are house rules. And even when you go from house rule to somebody's homebrew content that they've created and put out there on the internet, it is player facing to streamline or provide a certain kind of experience that wasn't provided before. But I also think that, like we've been saying this whole episode, homebrew is the first step, or like it is game design. I think there's a lot of space for like GM homebrew kind of stuff, right? And by that I mean like subsystems and prep or like behind the screen kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That I think that there's a lot of value for, and that doesn't get as much like attention because, again, players aren't going to bring this to their GM and be like, you should use this subsystem. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But for GMs, it's clever because a lot of times people doing this are the GMs who are running the game. I just wanted to bring up, like, I've been running a game at my work for a few years now. It started as Dungeon World, which, if you're familiar, is Powered by the Apocalypse fantasy.
Yes.
It's not the best Powered by the Apocalypse game. It's an old one, but we've effectively abandoned like the rules of Dungeon World. And we use our 2d6 plus stat. And then if you have your playbook moves that are appropriate in a moment, great. But the way I've been GMing it now is everything is clocks. Everything is clocks, right? Like, I'm not following the GM principles of Dungeon World all that much, right? Like hard moves, soft moves, all this stuff. Like, yes, I still do those because it's almost at this point a given. Like, we know when we set the stakes for a roll what that failure is going to look like. But behind the screen, quote unquote, all I have is like a sheet of paper, and it's just full of clocks that just have like an NPC and their goals, or like a scene specific consequence that like is looming over them. And I leave it there. I don't even hide it behind a screen. everyone at my lunch table, which is up to like almost 10 players right now, regularly, can see if they roll and they get a 6- or they get a 7 and 9, they know I'm going to start shading in clocks, and they start sweating. They're like, no, which one are you filling in? And I'm like, I'm not telling. And like, in a way, there's something to be said for, this could be homebrew for GMs. This could be like, hey, do you hate prep? Just draw a bunch of circles and like have a bunch of like, this could be interesting if it happened, and fill it on bad rolls, right? On failures. Right. Start filling it in. Start on just eking it out. Go ahead and fill it in. Your players don't need to know what kind of shenanigans you're up to, you know? It's all in the service of the story.
Yeah. And, you know, there are numerous systems out there that started off as homebrew of another system. It's like, ask John Harper, at what point did his Apocalypse World game turn into Blades in the Dark?
Right. And then I think I'm pretty sure he considers it a Powered by the Apocalypse game, right? Like Forged in the Dark is
in interviews that I've heard. Yes, he refers to it as a Powered by the Apocalypse game because it started off as an Apocalypse World hack.
I think Sean Tompkins says Ironsworn is Powered by the Apocalypse, right? I mean, like, and it's
possibly,
you know, because again, like, you know, that was the original, like you said, chassis of the idea, right? Like, this is what you were carrying it on for a while, and then you said, oh, I don't need this wheel, I'm going to do this instead, or you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So my forever game design project, it started off as me trying to simplify the operator's handbook for the Vault, which is the published
air quotes
Fallout pen and paper game.
Oh yeah.
It was based off of the modifications made by Pavel Dembowski, who was based it off of Jason McCall's unpublished Fallout pen and paper game that he was writing for, I'm wanting to say West End or Mongoose.
Okay.
I can't remember. That game ended up getting modified and released as Deadlands.
Oh, okay.
But so Deadlands was originally supposed to be the official
Fallout
pen and paper game.
I can see that, actually.
I picked it up and I was looking at it and I was really excited about, I want to play a Fallout pen and paper game. This was 15 years before Modifius released the Fallout 2D20 game. And I'm going through and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is unnecessarily complicated.
That tends to happen when you're building a system. Whole cloth, yeah.
Building a system based off of a video game.
Yeah.
So the deceptive thing about that is video games run on computers. Computers are doing all the calculations in the background. You don't see it.
Oh, I have complaints about this from the big Pokemon one. I'm sure. I don't know if you've heard me complain about it.
I've heard you mention it. Yeah,
dude, it's bad.
So to give you an example from this game, one of the issues that I had with it was with regard to burst attacks, which are automatic weapon fire.
Mm-hmm.
The way that you figure this out is because it's all on a D100 system, and I liked that because it fit with these 1 to 100 for all the skills and such.
Right. In Fallout, you'll see your percent of success or failure, right? And it's
you see your percent of failure in VATS and all of that. So the way that burst attacks end up working is you have your skill in the weapon that you're using, and your success range is between 100 and 100 minus your skill. So you have to roll in that range. In the example that they give in the book, if you have a 60 in big guns and you're using a minigun, you have to roll between 140 to hit.
Oh man, they THAC-O'd percentile.
Yeah. Oh, it gets worse. It gets so much worse.
Oh no.
Okay. So let's say, given this example, you roll a 70. 70 falls between 140, so you hit. Now we have to see how many of those bullets hit the target that you're shooting at.
Yeah.
So it becomes it becomes your roll plus 1/4 of your skill plus your luck stat.
No.
that determines the percentage of your bullets that hit the target.
Oh my gosh.
Do you see why I had to simplify this?
Yes. Oof, like, as somebody who's good at pretty quick math, that even for me, I'm like, no, I would never bring that to a table. Right?
And then you end up taking whatever that percentage you came up with was, and you have to subtract the target's armor class from it.
Yep.
So in this particular example, it comes out to 89%. The target has a 7% AC, so you reduce it to 82%. So 82% of your 20 bullets.
Okay, let's figure that out.
End up hitting. Right. So 16.4 of your bullets, and they do at least give you the leniency of rounding up. You always round up. So 17 of your bullets hit the target, and then you have 89% of the remaining bullets hit the next thing in line. So the 83% is like 2.8 something, and so the last 3 bullets hit the cactus behind the Deathclaw that you were shooting.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that is why I decided to take this game and start simplifying it.
Yeah,
and I've had to kill a lot of my darlings in the creation
labor of love for sure
in this game. It has gone through 6 or 7 different iterations,
and as long as you're got people willing to test it out, figure it out, and you're happy with it, and like this is the last thing in here is as long as you're having fun, you're doing it right, is something you hear a lot.
Yes.
And I very much believe in that, and I think that like we said in the beginning, we're playing effectively make believe with self-imposed collective constraints, and all we can do is when those constraints don't allow us to do a certain thing, but it's within the scope of doing it, we make it happen, and it's the best. And I can completely commiserate with Rust, with Gardens of Rust, which we just talked about, and a game that I'm designing. And by the time this is out, I should be very close, if not ready to release the quick start. But yeah, guns are tough to balance in a game as far as damage and stuff like that.
It has gotten to a point. I have come to the realization that I have to abstract it. You have to abstract it. You cannot use real world physics in a game with guns, unless guns are the only thing you've got.
We ended up, at least at the moment right now, the way we ended up doing it was like pretty much any gun. Think about again in our game, it's just humans, it's just like people. So like they just add a flat number of damage that is almost always at least 1 injury's worth, if not more, or dead. If you get hit by it, kind of thing. So it forces you to burn all like of your experience and luck to like minimize it as much as humanly possible, because if not, you got shot, dude. Like most people aren't walking away. You know what I mean? Like,
and so, I know with my system, I had to figure out how to do like advancement, how to do leveling and all of that, because I wanted to keep that crunchy, more mechanical aspect.
Oh yeah, for Fallout for sure, because you want your skills to
I didn't want a rules light game for this. This did not to me feel like a rules light game. It is definitely a lighter rule set than it started as. I have pared out a whole bunch of unnecessary rules to streamline things. I didn't want to end up having a thing where, like in D&D, where you have a character that has 100+ hit points, somebody who can tank, 5 bullets and still be fine. I didn't want that.
Yeah,
I wanted to scale everything to where it doesn't matter what your level is. If you get into combat, there is a real chance that you are not leaving combat alive. Yep. And I wanted to emphasize that because it's a post-apocalypse. It's supposed to be dangerous. There's supposed to be consequences to your actions. And I wanted to emphasize that by combat is always dangerous. And absolutely. So I'm not going to get into that. That is outside the scope of our conversation right now. And if we wanted to have another conversation about that later, we can. But
listen. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more.
Oh yes, absolutely,
about
absolutely.
I think that's a good point to transition to some closing questions. There's a lot to dive into. Like we said at the very beginning, we barely scratched the surface of the a massive umbrella that is Homebrew. But hopefully listening to this, you got some ideas about things that you may have identified that don't work in your game, and you might have some ideas about how to now approach it. But Ian, do you have any last bits of wisdom, advice, or homework for the listeners?
Do the thing.
Yeah, make something.
Do the thing.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, you have to accept that the first thing that you make probably isn't going to be very good. You're not going to sit down, unless you're Patrick Rothfuss, you're not going to sit down and create a masterpiece on your first try. I'm still a little bit bitter about that.
Sure.
But, being bad at something is the first step to being kind of good at something. And you have to finish the bad project in order to progress as a creative, as a creator, as a designer. You have to finish the thing, look at all of its warts, and acknowledge, that there are parts of this that I don't like. But I know I can identify what those parts are.
Yeah.
And that is the first big task, is looking at your project, looking at this thing that you just spent hours of your life putting together, and acknowledging where it's wrong. Because that will help you figure out how to avoid those problems in the future. That is what you learn from. You learn from failure. You don't learn from success.
Yeah. That's great. That's very good advice.
Yeah.
One, make the thing. Two, finish it, right? And then put it out there, and then own it. Own it,
failure.
and then
accept failure.
Yeah, and again, like, there's nothing that says you can't, if it's something that you really loved, and like, a few months out, you look back at it and you go like, yeah, there are some problems with that. If it's still itching, go back and fix it. Try do a version 2, you know? And you wouldn't have learned those things if you did it, but it sat in your Google Drive, like I have 1,700 unfinished,
Yes. Yeah.
So question number 2 for closing questions. Do you have any RPGs you desperately want to play, or any ideas that you've had that you want to like play or use in an RPG that you've never gotten to the table?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of games that I want to play that I haven't played. I was lucky enough to make it to Gen Con this year, and so I did get some games in at the con. So I was finally able to actually play in a game of Old Gods of Appalachia, and another game of Cypher, and I got to play in a game of Pirate Borg. Pirate Borg is so much fun.
Nice.
But there are a bunch of games that I have that I want to play. I want to actually finally get to play a game of Blades in the Dark. I have it.
You gotta do
I
it.
have it on my shelf. I haven't gotten a chance to play it. Cyberpunk Red. I want to play it. It's on my shelf. I haven't gotten a chance to play it. Modiphius Fallout 2D20. I have it. It's on my shelf. I want to play it. I haven't gotten a chance to. The only game on my list that I don't own a copy of yet that I really want to play is Troika.
Ooh.
I really want to play a game of Troika because I want that gonzo game experience.
That was the word I was going to use for it, for sure.
Yeah.
It's out there.
And lately in the last year or so, I've been really getting into a lot of folk horror literature.
Fits for your old gods, right?
Yeah. Adam L.G. Neville is my absolute favorite folk horror author right now.
Ooh, I'm going to write it down.
So here's one. It's a collection of short stories. It's called Word and Other Derelictions. It's WYRD.
Oh, nice.
And if you are going to be running games of like Delta Green, absolutely read this book, because what it is they're short stories where the setting is the only character. There are no people in these stories. And that's cool. And it's like you are it's almost like you're in a drone flying through and observing the aftermath of a horror story.
That's cool.
Yeah, like
my home group right now is running Delta Green, so yeah. I mean,
absolutely. It's if you have access to Hoopla through your local library,
I do.
There's an audiobook version of Word and Other Derelictions on Hoopla. It's like a 3-hour audiobook. Get it, listen to it.
Cool.
It's worth it.
And by the way, if anybody out there listening, if you like audiobooks or you like ebooks or anything like that, if you like comics, you know how many graphic novels I read on Hoopla? It's great. It's like Libby, but you don't have to wait, and you get 5 borrows a month. So
we get 4 through our library.
Oh yeah, I get 5, but
I mean,
but my library
each
doesn't have the best,
consortium does it a little bit different. They might be paying more to get the extra download every month.
Oh, I found it, and I am borrowing it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like,
that's funny. That's one of the questions I'm debating adding to the end of this list. Is just like, tell me about a book or a movie or something you want me to watch, or like an album you want me to listen to.
Yeah, that one is the one that I recommend to everybody, especially if you're going to be running games, because the scene development and the descriptions of scene in these stories is phenomenal.
GM masterclass stuff, like take notes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because it's so short, it's easy to get all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, each one of these short stories is like 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, goals.
And they're so vastly different from one another. Like the first one, you're on a cargo ship being tossed around in a storm at sea, and you're going through and you're observing what has happened to all of the crew. Like the thing that did all of this to the crew is gone. It's cool. Not here anymore. Yeah. But all of the aftermath is.
What an interesting self-imposed constraint for creativity, right?
Absolutely,
like, yeah.
And I believe he actually has a little bit at the end of that audiobook where he comes on and talks about, why he decided to write these stories the way he did. And it's just amazing. It's I cannot say enough good things about this book. But on that note, I do want to play something in that sort of eldritch horror. I want to play a Call of Cthulhu. I want to play a Delta Green.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play one of those games. And the big reason why I want to play a game like Troika is because the game ideas that I have, they need something robust like D&D, but 5e is too superhero fantasy to accomplish the grit that I need. And, something like Troika or that's Gonzo or something, or something like an OSR plus, one of the OSR games, like maybe Into the Odd could manage this.
Into the Odd and Cairn are my 2 favorite OSR games. Yeah, and again, just to tie this into Homebrew, they both have, or at least Cairn has a very active community.
Absolutely.
Like, Yokai Gal has opened up the doors to be like, anybody who wants to make stuff for this, stuff for this. And it's become this very vibrant community of people homebrewing. And it's not just homebrew, it's that they're making content, they're making scenarios and additional rules and things like that they're all putting out. And it's that makes it really great too, when you can see other people who are expanding upon these things, and that just further breeds creativity.
Yeah. And that one, there's a whole lineage chain that you can talk about homebrewing into game design. So Liminal Horror started as a hack of Cairn, which started as a hack of Into the Odd, which started as a hack of BX, I think.
I think
or Black Hack. I think it's the Black Hack.
Yeah, because there's I think somebody said, and I think they even said this to Chris McDowell, who is the designer of Into the Odd, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said like the first time they saw it, they assumed Into the Odd meant Into the OD&D. And he was like, no, I didn't mean that, but it works.
Yes.
Which is just so clever. Like it even, subconsciously.
Yeah.
Well, that leaves us with one thing, Ian. We've discussed a lot here today. You have much more you could talk about and a backlog of stuff for people to listen to.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
Tell people about what you do on the internet and where they can find you.
So I am one half of the podcast Undercommon Taste. We've got 5 years of episodes. So if you want to come and check us out, you can find us at undercommontaste.com. That gives you links to all of where we are at. It gives you a link to the Patreon where all of our homebrew stuff is posted. Almost all of it is free access to you. You don't have to be a patron to access it. I haven't updated it in almost a year and a half because life happened.
I hear you. That's my coffee.
And because inertia is a thing.
Yeah.
If you stop doing something, it makes it very difficult to pick it up and get back to it. You can also find a link there to our itch store, undercommontaste.itch.io. I also have a tarot-based solo RPG called Forever Home that I wrote for the Anamnesis Jam, where you are a first-time homeowner and you have bought this house with the intent of it being your forever home, living here for the rest of your natural life, and the house has decided that your natural life is going to be as short as it can make it. It is very much a home versus homeowner game.
Nice.
If you are familiar with the creator Derek Cahill on YouTube or on Facebook, he has a whole series called "Fuck This House," where they bought a townhouse and it has so many problems in it, and he is very progressively DIYing his way through all of them.
That's so funny.
And he's also a stand-up comedian, so it's a very humorous sort of thing in a Schadenfreude sort of way. Those are the sort of vibes that you get off of this one, and it hasn't happened yet as of recording, but by the time this episode comes out, it will have happened. So for our Christmas one-shot, we are actually going to be doing a Christmas one-shot of Forever Home, so that if you want to see how it plays, you can come and listen to our Christmas one-shot, because I realized that, I wrote this game 2 years ago and we never showcased it on our podcast. So we're fixing that.
Well, and I will be able to link it in the description of this podcast. Yeah. So you can go right from listening to this, click that link if you haven't already listened to it, and you can get right to listening to that and, relive the festive holiday spirit.
Yes. Nothing like being a first-time homeowner at the holidays.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, I also do TTRPG editing. Oh. I was the editor for the Emmy-nominated Action 12 Cinema. It was nominated for Best Rule Set in 2023 by Michael Ross. And yeah, I was really proud of that one. And so if you have RPG stuff that you want edited, just send me an email, ian.w.edits@gmail.com, and I can take a look at it and give you rates. And if you have something that you want edited, I can work with you on that.
Very nice. I may send you an email to the other email, and then but thank you so much, Ian, for coming on. And
thank you for having me. It was
talking homebrew.
Yeah.
And
it's always nice to be on this side of the microphone, because that means that I don't have to edit this.
Oh, don't worry. I love editing. That's a note for me when I'm editing.
So the other bit of background is that as of recording, last night I finished editing the episode when Rene came to our podcast. So it went live today.
Hopefully I didn't make it too much work for you.
No, it wasn't. It was.
Well, thank you again. And we'll be talking more very shortly.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening to this episode of Perspective Checks. I actually went and listened to that Weird and Other Derelictions book, and I do highly recommend it if you are running any kind of eldritch or cosmic horror. The scene setting is incredibly palpable and very effective. Also, go check out Ian's podcast, Undercommon Taste, that he hosts along with his friend James, as well as their games and any other stuff that Ian is up to on the internet right now. I have linked all of the places you can find him in the description of this podcast, and there is no shortage of homebrew ideas out there. So, like he said, until next time, do the thing. Just make something and put it out there. Send it to me. I'll check it out. I'll probably play it.